Ding, 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 ding,
He turned the car on in the garage, and my fucking porn came through the Bluetooth.
I heard Dean Blundell smokes crack. Was actually the first to smoke it with Rob Ford, I heard, too.
What's Dean got to do with it? Frankly, my dear, I don't give a Dean.
States rated R for, restricted and for a little bit romantic.
What do we got?
What is that in the background?
What is that over there by the mic?
Is he making wallets? What is he doing?
What's he doing?
It looks like he's... Never mind.
What's he doing? What? Is he dead?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
Hello, welcome to everybody to the program. My name is Dean. We do a show every day around 3-ish with James and Lachlan Cross. Welcome to the show. What are you saying?
Yo,
That
you need a cognac. You need one of those oversized cognac glasses, with the
Welcome to the
still
program.
is.
welcome.
Yeah. I thought we needed like a plucky intro to the program because James got on the show. Brought to you by our friends over at Blue Microphones, by the way, and Domination, DMNTN.com, and Shop.Black Rose Organics, and Easy Auto Financial. Before James got on the podcast, he was like, I'm in a bad mood. I got 19 minutes to get into a good mood. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Just go smoke a bowl. So just before we get on the podcast to start this whole thing, James literally stands up, walks out the back door, and we don't see him for a couple minutes. So really nice of you to finally be here. I'm assuming you did go out and smoke a bowl. That was what you were doing. If I'm not mistaken. Okay.
It was
You're
actually
okay
half
now?
a joint. I should be specific. It was half a joint.
All right. And you're better
You
now?
smoke outside?
Okay. Yeah, I never smoke anything inside.
Okay.
Vaporizers.
But you're better now? Like you feel good now? You're not as jacked up? You were jacked up before you got on?
I'm sure something will annoy me and I'll say something mean, but I'm fine.
That's actually Dean and I talked without you one day, and we have an idea for a new segment where you just randomly insult our guests.
Yeah, it's a weekly thing. Like yesterday, you took a giant shit on somebody. I can't remember who it was.
Jack.
But you're like, oh yeah,
he called Jack from the Oilers, who already is self-conscious about the sound of his voice. He's a professional broadcaster, and you called him the Gilbert Godfrey. Call him the Gilbert Godfrey.
Hockey announcers. I stand by that comment. It was a good comment.
But why? It's funny because invariably, Lachlan and I he's probably pissed.
I don't even remember the name of the show. What show is this? You can have a podcast. It's going to be canceled soon. And all I was thinking was, Affleck. That's all I was thinking. I swear to God.
Yeah, Locke called me last night and we were shooting the shit. And he's like, hey, do you think James is going to insult every guest we have? Because if he is, we should just have a feature for it where James just insults the guest. It happens almost every week. Like a couple weeks ago, Bonzi, when he first met James, he sends me a text right after. He's like, your buddy James is a little bit of an arsehole, isn't he?
He's right.
It's a little bit of an arsehole, that James.
Pretty intuitive, that Bonzi.
Yeah, pretty much.
The thing that surprises me about...
I've seen some things, man. I've seen some things. Okay?
I've seen some shit. The thing that surprises me about your lack of ability to insult other men in sort of a locker room way is that you grew up playing sports.
Yeah.
But there's this line that you cross where
it just sounds mean.
Yeah, where guys will fucking shoot the shit and take shots at it, get digs in and everything like that. You stop the room. It goes right up to the line and then it goes way over and it's like, Hold on.
No,
What did you just
there's
say?
no line, Lachlan. There's no fucking line. What are you talking about?
I don't understand.
have a line.
I don't know how I can explain it
If
to
you have a line, then they can measure your success or failure. So fuck the line. It just land somewhere.
Do you know how I explain it? I explain it like James. You know how we all have this governor in our head that says, "Hey, that might be funny to say, but maybe not present company." Or, hey, that might be really funny to say, but maybe don't say it because it might cause you some grief. James doesn't have that. And
he doesn't have that piece of tinfoil.
No, that governor, this thing that stops you from going to like a wedding, you know, like we go to weddings and you ever have these thoughts in your head like, my God, I could just go up there and punch the groom right in the fucking face right now. I could do that right now. But we don't, because we have a thing that says, don't go and do that because it's going to cause a major problem. He doesn't care. James doesn't give a shit. It's like it's almost like he gets overcome with this thing that he has to say, and he doesn't think about the consequences of the things that are coming out of his mouth. And, you know, by and large, that makes a great reporter. Like, it makes a really, really good reporter because he's fucking fearless. Like, James has no fear at all of what the other person is going to say coming back in a conversation. None. Zero.
The thing is,
it's from hip hop music and battles and freestyling and all that kind of stuff. It's the same vein, right? Exact same vein. You know, you got to improvise on the spot based on what the guy just said, and if you can find a way in, you know. Yeah.
I find it interesting because
that's the whitest thing you've ever done.
I'm trying to think of even like I'm often considered that guy. Because I say things that people are thinking, but they don't have the courage to say it. But there's even a line with me, and you're next level. You're even more so than I am in that regard. So I find it fascinating because now I'm sitting there evaluating myself as an individual in social situations and the trouble I get myself into and where I see the line and don't see the line in interviews or in, you know, at the bar or whatever the case might be, right?
Church.
But you can step over the line if you deliver it in a way that doesn't land on the offensive part, but lands on the clever part, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, but you seem to scoot right past clever to offensive. Which
sometimes you drive over clever.
Sometimes you look at clever on the way by to offensive, and you give it the finger and then tell it to fuck off.
And then I reversed onto clever, and then I forward
driving by.
Really pleasure to have our next guest back as well. He is an e-commerce law professor in the research chair at the University of Ottawa. Please welcome Professor Michael Geist, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, shocked you're back. Like, so thanks, right?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
You know, anybody can cook one meal, but can do people want to come back for a second? Like, you got to ask yourself those questions.
Well, they seem to enjoy the hamburger helper last time, Dean, so maybe it'll be a hit again.
Yeah, we're just serving intellectual pogo sticks over here, Michael. Don't worry about it. We're good. Yeah, ice cream sandwiches and pogos. How are you, dude? Nice to see you.
Good to be back. I'm doing well. It's been an interesting stretch of time, that's for sure.
Yeah. You've been busy. If you go to michaelgeist.ca, which is your blog, and you can check out Michael's Law Bites, which is great. Listen to one with Fenwick McKelvey today. I thought that was really, really interesting. You guys, specifically you, have done all the legwork in going to these committee meetings and being a part of these like gotta be unbelievably boring ass meetings trying to figure out whether or not Bill C10 is as garbage as we think it is. But last time you were on the show, it was a distinct possibility that they were going to try and ram this garbage bill through. Now, we've had a few hearings, and according to your writing, we're no closer. This bill is no better. But where are we at with Bill C10, and what is happening in as far as these committee hearings that you, thank God, made it out of alive, Michael? Really happy you're here.
As I say, I'm happy to be here too. You know, I think that as we get closer to summer and calls for an election, I think it's thankfully becoming less and less likely that this bill is going to become law, but that hasn't stopped all the political parties from marching ahead as they have been all along. In fact, in some ways, I'd argue that it's only gotten worse. You've had, for example, the Bloc somewhat ironically say that as part of a debate on freedom of expression, as comes up in this bill, that there is a need to put a gag order on further discussion when it comes to this bill, and that the government should just march ahead and stop all debate and get this thing passed because, Quebec creators want it and they want it now.
Yeah. I found that very interesting that the Bloc and the NDP and the Liberals all, kind of it's like they're supporting the idea that this is a good idea, but no one's willing to stand up other than the Bloc yesterday and go, hey, you know what? Let's stop talking about it. Let's just push this whole thing through. But it brings me to kind of another point, which is who is the government proposing regulates the internet with this bill? Because that's what it seems like we're so short on information, short on planning, and it's just piles of rhetoric, lots of people not showing up for meetings, witnesses not showing up for meetings. Like, it seems like they're just doing everything they can to try and push this whole thing through. But what's missing in my estimation from everything I've read is who do they plan on empowering? Who does the government plan on empowering regulating the internet as we know it today?
Yeah, I think that hasn't got as much attention as it should, although that we've started to see a little bit of discussion. And the answer to your question is the CRTC, the Broadcast and Telecoms Regulator, which now becomes an internet regulator as well when it comes to some of these services. And, I don't think that we have seen anything from the current CRTC commissioner, much less the CRTC as a whole, to suggest that it is well suited for that kind of role. It's not clear that, it's in some ways almost stating the obvious, but to think that we would hand over such core questions about, the algorithmic choices that you find on TikTok over to the CRTC in terms of what speech gets prioritized or deprioritized, I think for a lot of people just feels like lunacy, including, I should note, many of the creators themselves. One of the things we've seen over the last week or two is that a growing number of, especially digital first creators, people that have got podcasts or found success on YouTube or TikTok, are basically saying, hey, hold on a second. This is where my livelihood is. This is my forum. And suddenly you're coming in and saying, you want to regulate this? And in fact, I'm the one generating revenue, but yet you want to find ways that you'll make money off this platform when you're not really doing a whole lot on it to begin with. We're starting to see a lot of objections with those creators saying, we were never even invited to this party to give our views on the issue.
Yeah, they don't want that group.
Is Canada starting to behave the way Google behaves then? Is that the strategy? Because Google and they've been doing that in Facebook to a large degree as well, where they already have an algorithm in place that censors you, right? Like, and often it's really arbitrary. Like I got suspended on Twitter once because I said that Rob Ford was white trash with cash or something like that, and it was like, oh my God, how could you say such a thing? But that's the kind of algorithm that they're going to use, right? That this is where we're going with this.
Well, so there is a question of, are we choosing between two lesser evils? And you're right that there are concerns about some of the algorithmic choices that are made by companies like Facebook, Google, and others. It seems to me that the answer to that is not to say, okay, let's let the CRTC decide what the algorithm should be when it comes to some of this content, but rather at a minimum to say that we need better transparency about how those decisions are made. So, in the example that you just provided, we should know, or you should be able to know how it is that they arrived at these kinds of decisions. And so there's been a push for algorithmic transparency, but that's not what the government is really talking about here. They're basically saying they think the CRTC can do a better job with their algorithmic choices of prioritizing CanCon than the companies themselves.
Oh my God!
So Ian Scott,
this sounds like a throwaway line.
The head of the CRTC seems to think that all of his appointed group of married men and women at the CRTC will do a better job of instituting an algorithm that is made by someone else they know nothing about than the actual people who are responsible for the algorithms. Is that correct?
Well, Scott says, listen, I'll do whatever job I'm tasked to do from the government. And so at this stage, it's the government that's basically handing this off. And I think in some ways it speaks to that broader approach they've taken. They don't want to do any of the heavy lifting. Right. So they say, hey, we want web giants to pay, even though it's actually going to be Canadian consumers they're going to pay. Get ready for, a CanCon surcharge on your Netflix bill if this kind of thing goes through. But at the end of the day,
big companies not to do that kind of thing, Michael. And I think we all should, right? Why would we expect that a tax on them would be actually filtered down to the general public? That's just madness. I can't see that happening.
Yeah,
so it always happens.
Yeah, satellite radio
being sarcastic.
He's being clearly sarcastic. You look at, anyone that's a satellite radio subscriber knows that there's a copyright fee. If you're a Rogers Wireless subscriber, there's a government regulatory fee. Get ready for a CanCon regulatory fee, which when added with the sales taxes that they're adding, could jump to, increase some of these costs by as much as 50% if all of this goes through.
And it's, if I'm not mistaken, too, Michael, if I'm not mistaken, is Ian Scott just strike down the wholesale internet fairness bill? Didn't the CRTC just basically say to everybody, because a few years ago there was a cap put on internet spending, like what providers could charge us for our internet there, because in Canada the telcos have you by the whats when it comes to how much we pay. There's
just recently killed, but I don't know who killed it.
Ian Scott is same guy, right? Like didn't Ian Scott work for TELUS for a long period of time?
Yeah, you've done your reading. That's exactly right. So Scott, current chair of the CRTC, former TELUS executive, who came out with a decision that backtracked on a decision that he himself made just 2 years ago that set the wholesale pricing. So it's not directly what we pay. It's what other independent providers pay to be able to offer that service. That leads to lower prices in the marketplace. 2 years ago, the CRTC set those lower prices. The big telecom companies, the big internet companies, went to the courts. They went to the government. They did everything they could to try to stop this from happening. And incredibly, 2 years later, Scott basically said, whoops, I made at least 12 different mistakes in my prior decision, and I'm backtracking on that decision, and we're going to restore the rates that we had before, and even go so far as to say, listen, that lengthy costing process, and there's no doubt it's complicated, but that lengthy costing process to set up those rates, well, that just creates regulatory uncertainty, and so that's a problem. So we're just going to use these rates. And unsurprisingly, the companies who were affected right away said this is going to have an immediate impact on what we're able to offer up the public, even though Scott said, I don't think this is going to have any impact on pricing in the marketplace.
Yeah, it was exactly the opposite. If I'm not mistaken, TechSavvy, which is a secondary provider, basically said we can't be in this business anymore. Like they're saying that it's going to be good for business, and providers like TechSavvy are like, listen, we're out. We can't afford this. Like we can't get into this business and stay in this business where we're trying to offer solutions to people to give them better prices on internet provision, but we can't do it because this fella Ian Scott, who worked for a telco, has now decided that the fairness rules, which they put into place 2 years ago, which he helped with, are now no longer valid. Doesn't matter because telcos don't want to have any of their internet stuff capped. Like no.
I mean, you stated exactly right. I mean, TechSavvy's decision actually highlights how all of these communications issues are linked, because this is about actually wholesale broadband access. And TechSavvy said, listen, if we're going to take a hit here, we can't even enter into the wireless space, which is where a lot of people, including the CRTC, had earlier said, listen, we're hoping that these kinds of companies are going to enter into the marketplace. They're going to get spectrum. They're going to offer up alternatives when it comes to wireless services. And TechSavvy said, listen, we're just abandoning those business plans altogether. So the reverberations were really immediate. And, I think part of the blame lies with the government that has really de-emphasized affordability and consumer pricing. But the idea that this is who we're going to look to regulate these kinds of internet services, to set fair pricing, is just honestly feels like madness.
Do you think obviously you know more about the bill and you've been in these committee meetings and you've seen the frustration and you're writing, if you go to michaelgeist.ca, you're writing on the subject, brings out all the little bits and pieces that, generally speaking, people who don't know how bills work don't understand, how they get to where they're, they ascend and they become law. But how far away are we from this bill becoming a reality, or how far away are we from, not just the bill becoming a reality, but them taking this right out of the public sphere and not having any meetings about it, not having anybody in committee to talk about it, not talking to anybody, not calling any witnesses, because it really appears that through the second reading of this bill, that's what they've done. They've just said, listen, we're just going to have a kangaroo court thing here, and we're going to try and jam this through as fast as we can.
Well, we're certainly not going to see any more witnesses. They've had a bunch of witnesses. I think they're done at this stage with witnesses. They're in what's known as a clause by clause process, where they review each clause of the bill. For a while there, it was racing through. Nobody, frankly, had a whole lot to say about much of any of the major provisions. That has changed now that the issue is much more on the public's radar screen, and you've had the Conservatives become a lot more vocal about this bill. But if they wanted to move quickly, they could get it through committee, presumably pretty fast. Whether or not they're able to get it through the House and then get it through the Senate and do all of that before an election is, I think, in fairness, looking increasingly doubtful. But as I mentioned off the top, that certainly hasn't stopped the various political parties from pushing it. And it certainly hasn't stopped the various lobby groups that wanted to see this happen from continuing to demand that the government march ahead with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any idea how much it's going to cost? Because I read something out of Blacklock's, and it was talking about, the language was so bizarre, but it was like the government spent $3.1 million to build the framework to one of the amendments that hadn't been drafted yet. And that was just one part of it. So do we have any idea what the cost estimate is?
Yeah, that was, I believe, a reference to how much the government was allocating for the CRTC to begin handling some of these issues, which runs in the millions of dollars. The bigger figure, though, is the figure of how much all of this is going to cost or raise, and the notion that at the end of the day, it's going to be Canadians that are going to foot the bill. And so, the Heritage Minister Guilbeault has talked about $830 million a year as his estimate for what he thinks this is going to generate. And the suggestion that somehow this is going to make web giants pay is laughable. This is going to make Canadians pay. And at the end of the day, it literally hundreds of millions of dollars in additional fees that Canadians are going to face as a result of this legislation if it becomes law.
Why is this not bigger news? Is it just because it's so convoluted and so far away that we're just kind of brushing it under? Because outside of this podcast, I am not seeing anybody talk about this.
Right. Well, I've seen a few people talk about it, thankfully, and it's getting talk in the House of Commons. But you're right. I mean, at this stage, it isn't. It was front page news for a few days, and it's receded a little bit now to just the political pages. And I think this reflects the fact that, one, we're still in a pandemic. Two, the challenge in many respects is that this does get complicated, and of course, the government has tried to present this as there's nothing to see here. This is just about fairness and making web giants pay. And, they don't complete the sentence by saying that the legislation itself, by the way, is going to make you pay, and that it's going to have an impact on your freedom of expression and on net neutrality. And that we're going to, by the way, leave it to the CRTC to figure out all of these issues because we didn't have the courage in our own legislation to provide the specifics.
Yeah, courage is a good word. Real lack of courage that you see from the government in everything that I've read from you and anybody that's had anything to say about C10 that's been objective, right? Because you can read through different people's dissertations and lobbyists that are working on behalf of certain special interest groups in Quebec and how, they're writing about this being, a great thing. But if you actually look at the law and the way that you've broken it down, Bill C10 does nothing for anybody that uses the internet to create content. And it does nothing for anybody who has radio stations. In fact, it does the opposite. It tells you that you can't use you can't use it to create content and monetize that content the same way that we used to. And it's again, a red herring, because one of the words that they're shoving in there to try and make us okay with it is discoverability. They're trying to tell us that, listen, Canadian people, listen, if you're creating something, if we get this bill through, it'll be easier for people to find your stuff. But there's no promise to that. Like, they haven't said, you talked about algorithmic transparency, they haven't talked about how it's going to work. But they've been like that with this whole bill. Like they've just kind of told you, trust me, it's going to be fine. We're going to have this bill and it's going to be better for Canadians. But in every model that I've seen with how this plays out, if indeed Bill C10 goes through, it's not just going to, destroy freedom of speech or the idea of freedom of speech when it comes to being, putting your thoughts out socially or communicating with people. It's going to destroy traditional media and their ability to drive revenue as well, because that avenue is going to be gone for them too.
Yeah, I know. I think it raises a host of problems for the groups that you're referring to. There's no question about that. And I think as I mentioned it before, but I think one of the things that we've really seen that has been important has been many of the success story, the people who have succeeded in Canada. And sometimes they've even now left Canada because they've become global stars using sites like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and have been beneficiaries of that platform. And the algorithms have in many ways worked exactly as you'd want, that they found audiences and things were successful. And this idea that somehow we need the regulator to step in, it just doesn't make any sense. And what's particularly sad, I think, is that the committee never heard from any of these people. They quite literally never heard from a single digital first creator, didn't hear from a podcaster, didn't hear from anyone, the hundreds or thousands of Canadians that are finding ways to make it a go of it as a YouTuber or a TikToker. Committee never heard from them. They some ways they don't even
stop
count.
And talk to those people to figure out how it works on their end. Like if they wanted to get all the information. You know what? They don't know how it works. And then even with their proposals, they don't know how those will work either. Because as we've been saying, nobody does this. Nobody thinks that it's appropriate, for example, to have the government intervene in the so-called discoverability issue when it comes to user-generated content. So there isn't even a model to look to. There isn't to say, oh, this country was doing it this way. That's how it was implemented by a YouTube or a TikTok. They haven't implemented it because nobody thinks that it's appropriate to have this kind of regulation on this kind of content. So it doesn't happen in China?
Even there, it doesn't. They of course block content all the time, but we're not talking about blocking. We're talking about prioritizing or deprioritizing content based on essentially on where it comes from. But even that, of course, is uncertain. I mean, some of these TikTok stars, for example, they're based in LA now. Are they still Canadian enough for the CRTC? It's not always clear.
Oh, they'll find a way.
Yeah, Shawn Mendes. What about him? He was like, he was discovered on social media. He was a YouTube dude. He doesn't have anything to do with Canada. Justin Bieber, same thing. Drake, Drizzy. Michael Geist, law professor, chairman of research at University of Ottawa and e-commerce. Really appreciate you being here. Go to michaelgeist.ca. His podcast is called Law Bites. It is excellent. His last one with Fenwick McKelvey was really, really good. So go and check it out. It was all about discoverability, which is why I asked. But fascinating topic. And thank you very much for doing the work that you've done on it. And we'll continue to follow you. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much again for having me.
Thank
you, Michael.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Michael Geist, ladies and gentlemen. He's a law professor. That's why you see all the books in the background. Kind of stresses me out anytime I see a lot of books behind someone that we're interviewing. It's like, fuck, they're probably way smarter than me.
No, I think we can take away probably and replace it with another word.
Well, the worst case scenario, Dean, was that be really dumb, and then you could wake up tomorrow and not be that dumb, and then
Marcus Aurelius all the reading. Again. Think about all the reading you have to do to get that smart, and then think about all the books that he has on his shelf, and I want to know if a guy like that has read every single one of those books. Like right behind you, Locke, you got a bunch of CDs. Have you listened to every single one of those CDs?
No. I have hundreds of CDs I haven't listened to.
Right. Like he's probably got a bunch of books he hasn't read either, but to be a law professor and to be like an expert in his field, you would think he would have read at least 80% of those books.
Probably he has.
He probably made notes in the margins too.
My mom's she's a writer and she's a reader, and she has a impressive book collection, and she reads nonstop. So,
but why does she read? Does she read because she's interested in stories? Is she trying to learn? Is she looking at becoming enlightened? She's always been a writer. Yeah,
always. Not always a writer. She was actually a painter for years, and then got into writing sort of later on in life. And she's written a couple of books actually. But But she was always. I think my mother wanted to be the artistic person, right? Like she wanted to live that life. She was a bit of a hippie without sort of all the trappings of being a hippie.
Sort of like James.
No trappings when you're a hippie.
Well, the drugs. She got sick from pot, which is weird. She's the only hippie that didn't smoke weed, because every time she smoked, she threw up. So
she's like a poser hippie.
Yeah, so she was a wino hippie.
Total
fucking hippie, though.
Did you? Was she really?
Yeah.
One of those people. Do whatever you want. Like this, there's a reporter in Denmark, story that came out yesterday. It's a reporter in Denmark. Her name is Louise, I believe. Louise?
It's whatever you want it to be, Dean.
Louise Fisher. She is a Radio 1 reporter in Denmark, and she did a story about a swingers club called Swing Club.
That's really creative.
Yep, I know. In her local town, because she's doing the story. She works for a radio station. She's bringing the magic back to Radio Lock. You get that.
So was this an accident, or was she...
It wasn't an accident. She is a legitimate 26-year-old reporter from Denmark for a radio station company called the One Radio, and she was asked to go do a story, a post-COVID story, on the economic health in swing clubs or swingers clubs. They just call them swinger clubbern.
So
in Denmark.
She was there, not just to report on the swinger culture, but she was also there to, because I mean, obviously there's a language barrier.
Yeah.
When she went into the swingers club, was there the intention? Did she have the intention of getting banged for the story?
She went there undercover as a goer, right?
No, she went there and said, I'm going to do a story about swingers clubs opening up post-COVID. And they said, come on in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Come on in.
That's my confusion.
Yeah, this is Louise right here. Pretty lady. There she is. She's a reporter. She's only 26, been a reporter for like 5-6 years now. But she'll do any story on anything, very adventurous. So she goes in and, you got it? You got it in graphics? We got the video? I don't have it. Oh, I got it here. I just loaded it up. But this is she goes into the swingers club and she picks a guy, and another guy comes and kind of explains everything to her. But this is audio from that moment where she actually was getting the story and she was recording the sex she was having in this swingers club just for fucking the radio, just for the news. It was incredible.
They ran this story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they ran this story. I don't speak Danish or whatever it is that they're speaking here. Maybe it's Swedish. I don't know what they speak in Denmark.
I think this is Danish.
Probably Danish. So you're only getting the audio, right? Because she did this for radio. But do you remember when this was cool, when you used to be able to go and get like clips like this from sex clubs and swingers clubs? We used to do this all the time. So fucking people loved it.
Skål! Altså, jeg er jo helt ny til det her.
Skål is cheers. Yep.
Obviously, the dick just walked in the room. They're getting to know each other a little bit. He's like, how you doing? She's like, good, I'm just here doing a story. And then he's like, great, I'm going to feed you this giant anaconda, and you're going to like it.
Hvad plejer I at gøre?
Yeah, there you go. I don't know who the other guy is in there.
Yeah.
It's like he's explaining how it works.
I think he might also be a watcher.
A fluffer?
Yeah.
That's right.
You can hear some noises that sound like someone's putting their fist in like a grapefruit.
Hvorfor det?
Det er jo gode venner og fed sex.
I think she's getting banged here.
Look how they spell ah. Arr.
Arr. Kan du lige fortælle, hvad du ser lige nu?
And it's 8:15 and I'm being mounted. I am now successfully mounted inside the club.
Class.
Så er det din honey.
That's it.
There's a lot of talking.
I listened to the outro music. That was hilarious. It was like porn music from the 80s.
Yeah. There was a lot of talking. There's an inordinate amount of talking for sexual activity. If you're asking me.
See, my
This is
brain
not-
doesn't
without the
function
translation,
properly
it's hard
during
to
sex,
even,
so
like-
I'm not talking at all. I usually black out.
I wouldn't know what to fucking do with myself if I went into one of those places. And
it's a
guy
special
couldn't
breed.
do that. A guy couldn't do that story, could he? Like
It's
if a guy goes into that it's like, I'm just doing the story. Everybody's like, you're not doing the story. You're just looking to get laid. But a girl goes and does that, and everybody's like, let's hear the audio.
Good for her.
Let's hear the audio one more time.
Yes.
Good for her.
This
What a
is- yeah.
professional. Way to go. Really proud of her. A guy goes and does that. You're like, you're a fucking pervert.
It's funny.
No, wait. It's a news story. You got to listen to the news story that I did on it. I can't understand a fucking word they're saying. All I know is that she sounded like she had a good time. He sounded like he had a good time, and everybody got off. That's what I heard.
And it does sound like it didn't take as long as you might think. Like I would have some stage fright issue. Like I don't know if I would necessarily be able to perform if I knew there was a mic on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just being honest with myself. Anybody that I have met that has had a sexual encounter in that kind of vein, the swingers, the poly, they're different. They're and God love you. As far as I'm concerned, the more banging everybody can do, the better off we all are. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Go do what you need to do. Whatever gets your goat going. It's just, I'm always, I am just fascinated by the wiring of the individual that takes a vacation or spends a night at a swingers club, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like old Bonzi telling a story about going to the one in Toronto with the hot tub and the pool.
And the 4-foot pube that rolled by in the hot tub and the massive Band-Aid that was on his back when he got out.
I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, but some of these swingers clubs are different. And Louise Fisher has been like a reporter at this radio station for like 4 years now. And she does these stories that nobody else does. And I think I get why. Like radio people are like, if there's one thing radio people love more than hearing their own voice or seeing their name in lights, it's getting free shit, right? It is. Like radio people have been spoiled for the longest time. And in my mind, Louise Fisher just opened up Pandora's box of free shit. Like if I knew back when I was doing radio that I could get some sex out of doing a bit, I would have done that bit weekly.
Yeah, and plus that bit is like more edgy than anything like Howard Stern has ever done. Like personally, right?
I would agree. I can't believe that's why I was asking the questions at the front end. Like, did she just accidentally leave the mic on? Did she have the intention of going in there and doing that? It sounds like she did. So
no, she was going. The intention was she wanted to go in there, record herself having some sex, talk about the experience of what it was like to go to a sex club after the pandemic and to see how clean it was and to go through, because that's what everybody's doing, right? Like everybody's going through for content, like radio stations, television stations, newspapers. They're sending people around to go, I want you to go into Blimpie Subs and see what it's like to order a sub after the pandemic, now that it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing. They just said to her, we need you to go into this sex club, get rooted out by a couple of guys, record it, and then bring back the audio and let us know how it goes. Fucking great job.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to perform. There's
you wouldn't be able to cover that story.
I wouldn't be a good swinger. I wouldn't be able to talk my wife into it. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want her trying to talk me into it. I know that probably makes me sound a bit like a prude, but I can't.
It's very punk what she did. Like, you know, really at the end of the day, like that is something normally you would get fired for, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. You know, so
James,
like it's a pretty like establishment thing to do is to go fuck so that you can get a good story about swingers clubs. I don't know.
No kidding.
I find it. I'm impressed. You know what I mean?
I'm not. Again, I think Dean's right. I think there would be more judgment on a dude. I'm not sure how a guy would even
dude,
on any level remotely get away with it. There's no way.
Arrested. Yeah,
and I know that's a representation of the inequality, but I mean, you're right.
Guys would go and do this for the express purpose that they got a chance to have some sex. It would have. There you go. Skål. I'm going to skål you.
Det ved jeg ikke. Hvad gør man?
Altså, det er forskelligt. Nogen kan lide darkroom.
But yeah, very political.
Is it just me, or are you guys starting to understand the language too?
A little bit, yeah.
You want to make that clapping sound? Put the buffer down there. Put the buffer down there.
Hvad plejer I at gøre?
Det er forskelligt.
Det er sgu forskelligt også. Altså.
Out of the three of us, who's the most likely to be a swinger?
James.
Yeah.
I've already done it.
You have?
Well, I mean, like, free love version of
det at være
that,
tilbage i en swinger?
After parties for raves and shit.
Det er noget, der er ventet i mange måneder. Han er sagt.
That's the watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the cuck.
Det er
the cuck.
Gode venner. Fed sex.
A smattering of applause. I think she should probably lose about 8 pounds.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to do it either.
Ended very quickly. She might have edited
There's footage of me on the internet somewhere. There has to be.
Is there?
James, really?
Yeah, my ex and I used to do that with the curtains open on purpose in downtown Toronto. And then we even, like, the window was open after we finished once, and all we heard in the distance was, woo!
That was it?
In the far distance, though, like it came out of some condo, and then we just took a bath. Anyways, yeah. But exhibitionism is fun. I don't know about the swingers thing, because then you're all cut from the same cloth, and it seems more culty or something. But, you know,
yeah, she went in there by herself, though. Like, she went in there just by herself to do the story, which I like.
Yeah.
Ballsy. It took balls for her to get in there.
She could have recorded it. She could have recorded it and launched her porn star career. She could have.
That's true. Naked Cheese Wes says a guy could only do it if he was gay or bi.
He's probably right about that.
Probably. Yeah, the deck is stacked against us straight white guys.
Wait, but you know what's funny? I
think there's a lot of
sexist. Even though it's a sexist trope, I do kind of want to know what she was wearing when it all went down. You know, it's a sexist trope.
I didn't.
You want to know what she wants to wear or what she was wearing?
I want to know what she was wearing that night that it happened.
Okay. Listen.
Dude, I was playing that clip for Jamesy before we got on the show, and he's like, "That's so hot." He found it hot.
Say that.
Yeah, you did. It's exactly.
It was mildly
what you said. You're like, that's hot. No, you said it was hot. You said it turned you on. You said that listening to that reporter.
This is the face of a liar, everybody. Go ahead, Dean.
No, that's what you said. You said it was hot.
I did not say that. I thought that the cottage
audio.
cheese
I don't know if I
sound
found
was
it hot,
I
but
did not say that.
my junk swelled.
Did you leave the garbage in the sun? What are you talking about?
Hey, you know what I got this week is I was doing some internet research, and there's this dude named Jonathan Goldsby. There's no segue.
There's a
the best
divot.
segue is
You have
no
to replace your
segue.
divot.
No, I was reading a Goldsby tweet this week. He's a reporter out here, Locke, and he brought up something pretty funny. You know how Rob Ford's died like 4 years ago? I think 4 or 5 years ago. Is that when he died? Died of cancer. He had fat cancer, so his fat had cancer, and that's what eventually killed him. And it's just kind of a fact.
Are you making that up?
No, he had.
I remember hearing he had
cancer of the fat?
massive tumor.
Yeah, he had fat cancer. Like he had. I think
when
you're that big, your fat can get cancer. Yeah, that's what happened. So unfortunately, dude passed away, and the anniversary was just like a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he's Rob Ford's brother. He's now dead. Rob, the premier of the province, but his wife last year sent this out, which was nice, right? March 22nd, 4 years ago today, my husband, father, my children died from cancer. We miss you so much. There's Rob, fun-loving Rob, a lot of fun. And then literally 1 year later, she puts this out. Happy birthday, honey. They took you out to bring in communism. You know it, and so do I. Elitist John Tory, your time is coming. So Rob Ford's widow is basically come out, and she's now blaming John Tory, the new mayor of the city of Toronto. Not so new. He's been the mayor, and he's gone through an election cycle already, so he's been the mayor for quite some time. She's now saying that John Tory killed Rob Ford with cancer to usher in an era of communism here in this beautiful city of Toronto.
Yeah.
Not the craziest thing that's people are believing in nowadays, if we're being fair, if we're being honest.
Happy birthday, honey. They took you out to bring in communism. You know it, and so do I.
Elitist.
John Tory did it.
Elitist John Tory.
I don't know a lot about Renata Ford. I know she's had a tough life, Jamesy. I know she's had a tough go. I know she has a hard time getting to the grocery store without someone driving her. How do you go from a fairly normal, memorial tweet for your husband who died 4 years ago? This was 1 year ago. To happy birthday, honey. Communism took you out. John Tory killed you with cancer. We're going to get him. How do you go? How do you do that? Like, how does one go from normal to fucking completely batshit crazy?
COVID?
Alcohol for her.
Yeah.
She a boozer?
She was. She might not be anymore. I don't know. But that tweet sort of makes me believe she might be still,
back on the piss.
That's like QAnon shit, right? Like, that's similar, isn't it? It's like we're all communist. It's like McCarthyism is like in style now to just accuse people of being communists.
Yeah.
Dean, you mentioned a documentary about I'm pretty sure you did. I don't know if it was on the pod, but do you remember the name of the QAnon doc, or was that you, James?
Plandemic. That one?
Is it called Plandemic?
Or are you talking about the Pizzagate one?
Are you talking about the one that shits all over Q, or the one that makes Q look like it's a religion?
The one that explains the origin of it with the two guys.
Oh, no, that wasn't a documentary. That was just a news story that I saw. And the news stories about Jim and Ron Watkins. Yeah, the two guys from Q, for sure.
Yeah, but apparently there's a documentary on them, and I went to look for it, and I can't find it, but
I don't know. I haven't seen it. But that's what this is, right? Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, to go from, hey, honey, happy birthday, sorry you're dead, to communism took you out. It was John Tory's fault. His time's coming. That's why
do all these people blame? Like, they think that we live in communist states.
She probably watches Tucker Carlson and then applies his language to domestic politics, right? They all do that. They do that in Alberta a lot, Lachlan.
Dude, she's effectively saying that John Tory shot cancer out at Rob Ford and killed him.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, that's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. She's saying that John Tory, like Emperor Palpatine from fucking Star Wars, shot some magic cancer out of his fingernails. He does have sweet wizarding hair now, I will say that. And killed Rob Ford several years ago in an effort to bring communism and usher communism into the city of Toronto or the province of Ontario. And I don't know if this is that far off from what the family believes, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
I think what they are saying. I don't know what Renata is saying, but I remember at one time the Ford camp, both Doug and Rob, because Rob dropped out and then Doug took his place. Do you remember? And what they said is that they were disappointed that Tory decided to run, because apparently he had indicated that he wasn't, because he didn't want to run against the Fords, because I guess I don't know if they were friends or if they family members were friends or whatever it was. And then he ran. So he basically split the vote and killed Doug Ford's chances of being mayor. So she could have meant that. I don't fucking think, even if someone as batshit as Renata just thinks that someone just injected them with cancer, I mean, maybe, I don't know. She needs new meds if that's the case.
I am not an expert on how you get cancer but I'm thinking lifestyle. Thinking lifestyle may have been a contributing factor to Rob Ford's demise.
No.
Oh, wait, you're saying you can't shoot cancer out of your fingertips at people?
I don't really know what crack and steins of vodka had to do with his health, right?
He was awesome. I loved Rob Ford.
And a bucket of chicken somehow.
Yeah, he was incredible. He was a regular at Cache Escorts. That much I know. He loved his vodka. He loved his meth. He loved his crack. And the great part was we all knew he was doing it. It was like the family. It's the family alcoholic that everybody knows has a problem, but no one
he had
says
plenty
anything.
to eat at home. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I go down on my wife. That's it.
That was the greatest thing he ever said. Yeah.
But he had this it was like this childlike ability to endear himself to people, right? Yeah. Like he had this unbelievable fucking personality. And I remember when he came in and we interviewed him right before he became the mayor of the city of Toronto. And like we had all the guys that had come in because they wanted to be mayor there. All the candidates were running and they would come in and, oh yeah, this is what I'm running on and Toronto deserves better and stuff. But they'd have like 10 guys around them and pull up in these big bus limos and stuff like that. It was a fucking big operation. So we're expecting Rob Ford to come in for this interview at like, let's say 8:15 a.m. So around 8:14, the door busts open.
Chris Farley.
And it is literally like Chris Farley, man down by the river, sweat pouring off of his face. His shirt's disheveled. His fucking suit is like the V of sweat from the shoulders all the way down to the back of his suit jacket. And he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, good. He's like, I'm Rob Ford. I'm here for an interview with, and he looks at this piece of paper and it was all crumpled. Like it was all crumpled. He pulls it out of his pocket. And he's like, and the piece of paper has stains on it already. Like you probably got it that morning, but it's got like ketchup on it. And he's looking, he's going, I'm here to do an interview with Dean. Is that right, Dean? I go, yeah, that's me. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. And he sits down, turns the piece of paper over, and he's got his talking points on the back of the piece of paper. What I realize is that this isn't a piece of paper. It is literally, and I'm not joking, it is a wrapper for like an Oreo ice cream treat.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
And I'm not kidding you. And he brings it up, and he aces this interview with us.
Was he known as a recycler?
No, but I was in love with the guy by the time he left because he was so fucked. Like he was the most fucked interview I've ever had with anybody. He didn't give two shits about what anybody said about him. He knew he was 500 pounds overweight. He knew he was sweating his dick off through the entire interview. He was wiping his face literally with the same piece of paper, the Oreo wrapper that had like, the phone numbers and everything on it. And we were doing this interview. The entire time we did the interview, he was like this cute little childlike dude that everybody just loved to have around. Right. Like he was just, and awkward, weird. His answers in the interview were like fucking bizarre. Didn't really make any sense. Swept to power and became maybe the most loved / hated embarrassment the city has ever had for a mayor. Like, and still to this day, like if you want to know why Doug Ford is the premier of this province, it's because everybody loved Rob Ford. Literally.
Well, and it's funny too, because I don't think people are wrong. Whenever we sort of chastise the United States for their latest guffaw, their Trump experiment for 4 years, quite often people will bring up the Rob Ford thing. You guys, somebody put Rob Ford in power of the biggest city in the country. So you guys can't speak.
He was
and
such a fucking train wreck. We took all the power that he had to do anything away from him 2 years in. Like they were like, take a vote, take all the power away from Rob Ford. They're like, yeah, let's do it as fast as we can. He literally just got paid to go to like Leaf games and stuff towards the end. That's all he was doing. He's just going to Leaf games, getting wasted, being driven around by his buddy to get more Iceberg vodka or Prince Igor vodka or whatever the cheapest was at the time. Then he'd invite some ladies from Cachet Escorts over to the office building, and he'd have ladies lined up on the desk. He was a fucking animal. Like just an absolute animal that couldn't get enough ever.
Yep. I have a similar story where because I ran for mayor with in the election that he won. I got like 800 votes, even though I told everyone not to vote for me. But I was voted online to get. I was allowed to.
James
debate.
is your anti-candidate, Locke. Like James is the only candidate that
protest
runs and
vote.
hopes he doesn't win.
Yeah, but I got invited to the largest debate of the election, which is at the Art Gallery of Ontario, to debate all about the arts. And it was like, I can't remember, an 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock start or something. And he didn't get there till 7:45. They were going to start without him. He had a jacket on that was just wrinkled, like it came from underneath the seat in the SUV or something. And he also
he pulled it out of his trunk after it was there for like 5 months.
Like, it was on like a mannequin doll or something. But then he sits down and he's got his crumpled piece of paper, right? It wasn't a wrapper, but it was like a crumpled piece of paper. And I couldn't make out his writing, but he had point form stuff. And then he turned it over. And when the other guys were doing their intros, he drew a house. I'm not lying. This is not a bit. He drew a house. And I was just like, that is some kick-ass Arrested Development you have going on there.
Did he get into power because people have just given up on politics? Is that
No, you know why he got into power? Because he was this cute little fat guy that like would show up when people said, "Hey, I've got a pothole in front of my house and it needs to be filmed."
And he'd kept all their information.
Yeah, he would he gave Doug's the same way. His cell phone number is still publicly listed. Like, you know, they would have barbecues, neighborhood barbecues, and they would feed people, and they would go. Their dad, Ford Sr., taught them the value of endearing yourself to your community. Retail, exactly. Yeah, and he was a big time conservative politician. But, dude, there was a time, and it was like right towards the end of my time at the Edge, and I'll never forget it. We had these like massive garage doors, right? Big glass garage doors. And we'd been all over Rob for years, and they had taken his power away, and he was partying all the time. So out of nowhere, I just hear this banging on the glass doors, and I look and I see this short, little, sweaty, fat guy, standing there with his shirt halfway undone. And like when I say sweaty, I mean like, you know, when someone's sweating so much their shirt sticks to them, it looks like cellophane. It was like that. And he kind of had like a coat on a little bit, but it was hanging out. And he had a Tim Hortons cup in his hand, clearly wasted Rob Ford. He's like, "Let's go, you and me. Let's go." Like he wanted to fucking fight me at 4:30 in the morning before my fucking show started. And I'm like, I look at Todd and I go, "Is that
stepped out there?
Fat guy.
Is that the mayor of the city of Toronto?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's the mayor of the city of Toronto."
You should have stepped out there, and you should have had a couple of swings with him. Yeah, and you should have made sure you had it on video. That would have been the biggest moment in your broadcast career. You fighting a stoned mayor at 4 o'clock in the morning in front of the Edge studio.
He'd throw like a roundhouse punch, and it would just miss you, and he'd fall down into the snow. It'd be amazing.
Shit.
He'd pirouette.
That's a missed opportunity. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I missed out on that.
I know.
He was probably the most famous, hands down, the most famous politician
ever to come out of Canada.
Ever.
Yeah, without question.
No. Justin Trudeau's more popular than Rob Ford was, for sure.
No way. No way. No.
You don't think Justin Trudeau's more well-known around the world than Rob Ford?
No way. I don't think he's at all. I completely agree with
in North America's context, yeah, Rob Ford is really well known. But like Justin Trudeau, like he keeps on winning all these stupid arbitrary contests about who's the most popular world leader internationally to other countries, and Justin Trudeau wins those handily all the time.
No,
everyone in the world
you know
knows
what?
Who he is. Like,
at the end of the day, if you got good hair and people are talking about how good looking you are, that's one thing. That'll get you a certain level of fame. When you smoke crack and you're running a city, that's a whole nother level of people talking about you.
Fair enough.
If you drop me in Mexico and I just wander around Mexico asking people if they know who Justin Trudeau is or Rob Ford, I bet you more people know who Rob Ford is.
A friend of mine went to LA with Rob and Doug years ago, and it was when Rob was the mayor. It was right before he was going to go on, was it Fallon or Kimmel? Was it Fallon?
Kimmel, I think.
He was going to be on Kimmel.
Oh my God.
And
he was late night fodder forever. Like he was.
Dude, yeah, Justin Trudeau's never been on Kimmel. Sorry.
No.
Never has. So he's going to go on Kimmel. And before Kimmel, they were all out for dinner. And Rob looks at a friend of mine and he says, "Watch how famous I am." Hammered, he gets up from the table. He goes for a walk down Sunset and is mobbed by people. Mobbed.
Yeah.
The mayor of the city of Toronto that walks into Los Angeles and gets mobbed as he walks down the fucking street.
Look,
he was
drug
far
addicts
more
know how to
famous
spot each
than
other.
any other politician ever in
was
this
in Hollywood.
history of this country.
Yeah, I know. But not for the good reasons, right? Like,
no, but those are good reasons to me. Like this, look at this fucking loser. He injured his ankle the other day playing frisbee golf.
Oh, isn't that the most fucking Trudeau thing you've ever heard in your life? Seriously?
And he's got a fucking cane just to go to just to walk to the car. They gave him a cane. You better take this cane. and those $2,000 shoes to kind of get to the car. Otherwise, you're gonna have trouble. He's got a fucking cane. He was playing frisbee golf the other day with his friends, and he turned his ankle. So instead of just walking to the car, which I believe from this office to get into the car was something like 70 steps, he used a cane.
Oh my God, I hate him.
Yeah.
How many people do you think in our country, just give me a percentage, if they turn the TV on and he comes on, I have to turn the channel? How many? 100%. What percentage?
It's like 70 to 75.
You think it's that high, eh? I was thinking, I bet you 50%, but yeah, you're thinking 70?
You could tell when we interviewed Nathaniel Erskine-Smith that the things that he wasn't divulging is that he fucking hates to listen to. Like, he didn't say it, but you kind of got the feeling.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Like, if he's talking, I get a surge of anger through me.
Because he's smarmy, he's phony, he's fucking like, and even if he's not phony, then he's douchey. Like, it's one or the other. You know,
I can't figure out if he was just like a loser nerd kid in school who got beat up a lot, nobody liked him.
No, he was spoiled.
He's spoiled. He was a silver spoon.
Yeah,
kid.
but like, was he one of those abused, spoiled kids? You know, like everybody knows that the kid's a fucking loser and his dad's entitled and he's entitled.
No, everyone stayed away from him because his dad was the PM, right?
Matthew Perry beat him up when they went to school together.
Now Matthew Perry's too drunk.
Yeah.
Did you see the Friends reunion? I watched that.
What do you guys say about it?
Yeah.
My daughters both watched Friends. My wife watched it, and the Friends reunion came on, and it was actually kind of, because Chandler was my favorite when I did see it when it was on, because it's been on my house constantly for years now.
Chandler Bing?
Yeah, I like Chandler. He was funny, but that's a sad story, man. Like, he didn't look good in that family, that Friends reunion at all.
No,
he looked rough, man.
He looked like
he did look a little like Bonzi. Yeah,
and Phoebe looks awesome. She was the oldest on the show, and she's just a rock star.
Still a rocket. Yeah, she's still awesome. I noticed Matthew Perry struggled a lot, and it wasn't just that one clip that they gave us from him. You know, a couple of weeks ago, do you remember when they leaked that one clip of him going? But that was literally
them to leak that.
It's kind of sad, actually.
Like his worst moment, and that was his worst moment of the entire thing, right? Like, it was, and he was. You could understand what he was saying, but he was like slurring the entire time. He was slow. He was like, he was
I think
plotting
he's gone
with his speech. What's that?
I think he's gone hard. Like, I think he's had his foot on the gas for a lot of years. Apparently, he doesn't remember a couple of seasons that he recorded Friends, like, at all.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could say the same about Friends.
And I think I don't think he stopped. And I think
he did stop for a while. He was clean for a while. I saw him on the BBC with Peter Hitchens talking about how it's a disease, and Peter Hitchens was like, "It's not a disease." Yeah, but he was clean for a couple of years at least.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, I think the bulk of his adult life, he's
gone hard.
He's been in the boat.
Yeah.
Right? And you get out of the boat every once in a while and take a break, but I think he keeps getting back in. And I think there's also that maintenance after, if you've done hard drugs and you've really, really gone heavy, like Rob Ford, I think there's also some maintenance that needs to be done. And I think he might have been sort of propped up and given some substances to get him through that family or that Friends family reunion. So that was
seemed
my
like
guess.
it. I don't think, it's weird because when you see other people that struggle and you see how he's not the same individual, like he just isn't, right? If you watch clips of the show during the reunion, and one of the things that caught me by surprise, or one of the things that I took away from it, was how the amount of substances that he's done have literally changed his entire personality.
His face, even the structure of his face. I mean, that's age too, but you can sort of tell that,
he's gained like 50 pounds at least from when he was on that show too.
And you do. I mean, over the years, I mean, I used to be all cock and ribs myself, and now I'm a little, thicker.
Like a greyhound, all cock and ribs.
Mandingo. My forearm's like Mandingo. It's amazing.
When I had hair,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
you probably looked awesome.
Yeah.
I had the shittiest hair ever. I had like a Jufro, and I had a receding hairline when I was like 12. I looked like fucking Luke Perry's older brother when I was like 13 years old and shit. So maybe I like
the old Austin Matthews hairline. Did you have the old Austin Matthews hairline? At
it was
age?
just like Luke Perry. Like people used to be like, "You kind of look like Luke Perry," and I'm like, "No, I don't." I don't
Fuck
think
you.
I do.
I'm losing my hair.
Maybe I like to drink, bitch. I'm gonna go to Baja. Fuck you. You know? Why do I know all that stuff? I don't know.
All right, boys. Listen, have a great day. Thanks for doing this. Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM at Edmonton. James DiFiore from blackballmedia.ca. Check him out. You can also check out his podcast. It's called Blackballed, wherever you get your fine podcasts. Thanks, boys.
Make sure your podcasts go up on Spotify.
Yeah,
Make sure
Chris,
they go.
Chris told me that he was on. Supposed to take care of that. I told him.
There's how many have you done? There's 4 up there.
Yeah, there should be 2 more that I can put up there. I'll figure it out. And then I have Lawrence. Physicist Lawrence Krauss on Monday. That should be a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, you're gonna have to do research for that. Anytime we have someone really smart on and we do research for it, I'm like, I literally have to go like this.
No, you know what I
research.
I already know what I'm gonna do because I've been watching. I've watched maybe 6 hours of physics because that's what he does, and it's his conversation. But I'm just gonna tell him, I could have just kept trying my best to understand it, but I have no fucking idea like how to even grasp the theoretical in your field. So maybe you can break it down for dummies like me, because I don't want to pretend that so in the quantum theory syntax, I remember like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. No, I enjoy your podcast, James. I really do.
Thanks,
I listened to the Nick
Gillespie.
Gillespie. Yeah. That was fun.
It's really good.
I liked him a lot.
Oh, he was awesome. I liked him. He was a great guest.
Yeah.
Yep. Great podcast. It's called Blackballed, wherever you get it. Get your podcast from
I put the bald
James
in blackballed.
DiFiore.
I just realized that. Yeah.
Someone asked me the other day, they sent me a tweet and they're like, was James really blackballed from the media, or is that just a clever name? And I'm like, no, pretty much blackballed from the media. Like,
we forgot to talk about that hit last night.
That would be the shittiest. Like that's like a wrestler backstory. Because then I'm putting all that risk. Like, well, I think he's welcome to the CBC anytime he'd like to come. Like, no, I don't think so.
No, Locke, we didn't talk about that hit last night. Shifley on Evans. I have it here though.
Récupère cette rondelle en contournant le filet et la mise en échec. C'était prémédité, ça. Ah, lui, il savait très bien ce qu'il faisait. Il n'a même pas joué la rondelle. Bon, Stéphane Auger est avec nous. On a hâte de t'entendre.
Cheap. That was cheap. We know that's cheap, right?
That's what everybody's talking about today.
That's the rule, right? You hit him in the head. Like, he hit him in the chin, didn't he? Isn't that where he got hit?
Not really. No,
he didn't get him in the chest or the shoulder. Like he got him in the chin or the face or the head.
Well, dude, look, you can see it. Like you can see him hit his head. You're watching him, get knocked out before he fucking hits the ground. But I've been watched this like 10 times and maybe more. I've probably watched this 30 times. And I don't see, other than him leaving his feet, Locke, I don't see any problem with that hit.
What?
I don't. Really? I don't see any issue with it. Zero.
You don't think it was a charge? Watch the whole clip. It's definitely a charging penalty.
Did he come from like 200 feet? Yeah, he came from 200 feet and he crushed him.
That's a game misconduct. Right? Isn't that the rule? If you hit him in the head, like that's a game
you're just saying that. You're just saying that because you're a Habs
No, I
fan.
swear. No, what's that even
Locke
mean?
and I agree. It's just a hit. Just a regular old hit.
It was hard to watch, but I think it was a hockey play. I still think they're going to suspend him though.
2 games. Yeah, I do too.
Did he? I said 3 last night when I was watching it, because even if it is a hockey play, he still made contact with his head.
That's right.
So I think
that's zero tolerance now, isn't it? Like you can't.
Yes, that's
and it should be.
And I agree. The bad thing is, and 2 games is like 10 in the regular season in the playoffs, and I was really hoping Winnipeg would get past the Habs in this series, to be honest with you. But that's a huge blow if they lose Sheffield there. What a hit!
Yeah.
Sheffield, yeah,
nice massive hit. Fuck, it was like old school. It's like why I used to go out and buy Rock'em Sock'em Hockey all the time. I used to love
that's
it.
where the distortion
massive
guitar
hit.
kicked in, right on that hit.
Yeah. All right, boys. I got to go. Have a great day. Good to see you all. Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM, at Lachlan Cross on Twitter is where you can find him. Also, James D. Fiore, blackballmedia.ca. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Locker Room's back on the air on Monday.
Back on the air with Lock Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. You too. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to our friends at Black Rose Organics. Shop.blackroseorganics.com for all of your weed. Especially your cannabis, medical cannabis. This stuff's like 30%. It's awesome. It's called garlic sherbet. Check it out. Go to shop.blackroseorganics.com today. You can also get your card online. Start shopping immediately for medical cannabis. Really good stuff too. Also, a big hello to our friends at easyautofinancial.ca. Again, easyautofinancial.ca. They'll get you subprime financing for free for that car that you want. Then they'll send you to the dealer so you can get it as well. Easy Auto Financial, getting you lending that you need when no one else will give it to you. That's what they do, and it's free of charge, no obligation. Again, easyautofinancial.ca. Gitch, Ed's Gitch, number one Gitch. Ed's got fantastic luxury underwear, boxer briefs for guys, all kinds of different colors. edsfineimports.com. Order them from him today. Use promo code Gitch3. He'll send you a free pair just for me. Just because I'm nice. I'm going to give you a free pair of Gitch. Boxer briefs that breathe with you. They've got the pouch in the front for your stuff, too. Super smart. Love them. Go to edsfineimports.com today to come out. And a little hello and a thank you to our friends over at Domination, dmntn.com, dmntn.com. Try them today. It's artificial intelligence that's made for people who produce content like this. Go to dmntn.com today for more information. Try it for free. Join us at our newsletter as well, if you can. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.
Minus 1 minute.
Ding 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 ding.
Turn the car on.
Aaron told us before we started the show that coconut water tastes a lot like semen. I've never tasted semen.
Which I think is false.
No.
Dean, I think
I've had it before. I don't have any desire to have it now. That's for sure.
Coconut water?
Yeah, because Pfeiffer came.
Yeah, can you be more specific?
Yeah, just
might want to narrow down.
It's just the coconut water. I'm good with the semen. It's weird. It's a weird podcast.